Both classes saw an upheaval in the very first round, ushering in shockingly fast new talent. But the old guard is still walking around, even if they are unable to produce the results they wanted at Sebring. Will Watkins Glen allow them to strike back at the incoming rookies? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 2 of the PRL LeMans series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Watkins Glen's long straights and sweeping corners show off its old school nature. To learn more about the circuit itself, let's head down to our track guide. Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5 and 3.5 miles in length, lap times can vary greatly. But it also means it's suitable for lots of different levels of racing, from amateur to pro. The one thing that stays consistent no matter which car and which layout you're using is that Watkins Glen means speed. Many of the straights are very long, and the majority of the corners are fast sweepers. Some of them include a surprising amount of banking as well. Combine that with the proximity of the barriers, and this historic circuit retains a very old-school feel. Drivers in lesser-powered cars can expect drafting battles, while higher-powered machinery will test the skill and bravery of their pilots. Some of the turns are visually iconic, such as the carousel and the S's. Others, like the inner loop, the chute, and turn 9, greatly challenge even the expertly skilled. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the drastic amount of elevation change drivers experience. Between its rich history and popularity among drivers, this track stays busy and seems likely to be that way for a long, long time. Well, of course, Formula One made a name here, then NASCAR made a name here, but let's not forget mixed in there that, DJ, we had sports cars play a big role in the history of this track.
We did indeed. The 6 Hours of the Glen, one of IMSA's premier events, and these GT and LMP2 cars are going to take their turn here tonight. Now, in these cars, as with any car on this track, it is all about patience. These long, over 100-degree corners, you've got to be patient on the throttle. You don't want to put too much into it and give yourself a little bit of understeer coming out of the corner. But no matter what class you're in, some of the best passing opportunities you're going to get on the track are going to be going into the inner loop, that little bus stop down the long back stretch. Also look for some adventurous moves going through the chute, the toe, heel, all of that section through the boot. We've seen it time and time again that just when you think you've got a move made, somebody's able to fight back, and the give and take nature of those sections really allow for some good back and forth. And no matter where it is, though, it will always be good action.
That's for sure. But before we get to the action, well, we want to remind you that today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
PRL series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulations. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Now, let's take a look at our championship after one round gone. with the LMP2 Class Championship. Christoph Herbeno with a bit of a surprise win, but a very well-earned win in the first round. Was able to beat Christian Eisler and deny him a long-coming win that he's been looking for multiple seasons, almost years now at this point, I think. Felipe Ruiz finished in third, separated himself from Christian Eisler by only a point. Remember, they do get some bonus points, so we'll go over in a moment. And then they've got a tie between Owen Watts and Carl Modoff, with Nick Johnson finishing in sixth last week, putting him fifth in the points after the tie for fourth. Now, we also have the GTE class that they've been competing in. And Boris Angel Ovando, another one of those newcomers that showed himself to be a fierce talent, but instead of a old-time driver that has been in this series for a long time, we have another rookie in here. Utman Alawi finished in second in that race. Rafael Russo, who's been quick in the warm-up today, managed to get on the podium. Then you've got Michael Ross just ahead of the tied pair of Stephen Ash and Francisco Montini. We also have a teams championship for each class. DJ, I believe you've got the update on those.
I do indeed, and you see sitting at the top there is Delta Sport UK or U4K, but only by a point over Punto CL Racing. Very, very tight there. But as it starts to drop back, third through fifth, separated by about 20 points apiece, you see there Torque Freak Racing, NinjaTrader LMP2, and SRT eSport Orange filling out your top five. But the real battle is going to be that Delta Sport and Punto battle at the pointy end.
Then, of course, there's the GTE team standings with RSR by G Performance leading up there. Lockup Racing currently 23 points back. RSR by G Performance really dominating things, because from there on down it gets awful tight. SimRacing Premium 1 point back from them, and only 5 points back to SRT eSport Green. Full Send Racing rounding out your top five. Another 1 point behind from them on the team's standings. Now, we also have race details here for today's event, round 2 out of 10. And there's the two different classes that are competing simultaneously in this multi-class race, but it is a sprint format that they're running here in the PRL, only 60 minutes long. It is open setup, so drivers can tweak them to their liking. That could make a big difference at a track as fast as flowing as this one. And of course, they will have penalties and disqualifications if they get too many incidents listed there. There's the bonus points I mentioned. Fastest lap, pole, and 3 incidents or less will get you some bonuses. That's why we had some ties after last round's first race of the season. As we wait for our qualifying to kick off here, it's actually started, but we have nobody who's set a time yet. We have to remember that it is a different style here this season, DJ, because they only get the 4 solo laps now.
That's right. Only 4 solos, not everybody running together, so these LMP2 cars don't have to worry about lap traffic coming up and around them and spoiling the lap. But those 4 laps, incredibly important to get right, as you see working their way out of those final 2 corners. Some of the most difficult corners on this track, honestly. It's a very quick light brush of the brakes coming through that last curve. You don't want to lift at all. It's going to be absolutely amazing to see what they can push. There you see as David Menino first to cross over the line with a 132.9.
Cal Quinn's going to quickly dispose of him, go quicker. And it looks like Christian Eisler has not lost his speed, but both of them bumped down by Felipe Ruiz, who has the top spot, at least for the time being. Waiting on Christoph Herbeno to set his first time. And again, he could find himself pretty quick and could displace all of them up at the top. In fact, I'm seeing a number of drivers that have yet to put a time in our prototypes. Josh Wolf among them. Stephen Ash, by the way, is our provisional pole sitter in the GT class, with Michael Ross just barely behind him.
Yeah, it's going to be a very tight battle across the field. As here you see Nicholas Delp coming in to put in a time. He's going to come in with a 42.3. That's not going to move him up too far. He's going to stay back in 13th. But here comes Jared Turnbull, one of the independent drivers in the LMP2s. He's going to cross over the line. That's going to put Turnbull on the order. Kenny Rodriguez crossing over, I think, these guys. There we go. That's going to be 18th for Rodriguez, and here comes Pisano.
Josh Wolf also puts one down and gets himself onto the second row. So the number 12, about a half a second off of our pole sitter, but very tight behind Owen Watts in third, as we now go to Marius Voliakis. And his first time is going to be good enough for seventh with a 1:32.9, it appears.
Good lap there from him, and here comes Eisler crossing over the line. He is able to improve. That's going to bump him up to third in the standings. So good for Eisler, but if we know him, he'll be wanting to do more. Daniel Ziegler's crossing the line. He's going to be in ninth. Menino now, the early qualifier, he crosses over much, much faster there from him, but he is going to be back in 10th, not able to improve that much. Here comes Romig in one of the GTs. He's able to improve by a couple of tenths of a second, get himself into the top 10.
Monalawi just went quicker and actually took the pole away from Ash. So the 444 is now your quickest in the GT cars. Michael Ross tries to respond, but does not improve. In fact, he was 4/1000ths off of his best time.
Just a heartbreak to get that close here. That you are watching Alawi's teammate there, as here comes Flanagan coming across the line in one of those Corvettes. Looks like he might just be able to squeak a faster time over. He indeed does. He was 19th. That he will move up a few positions there, it looks like. Here comes Joshua Wolf across the line. He is not able to improve, missing out by about 100th of a second.
Kenny Rodriguez, who currently sits in 20th, finds a little bit, about 2/10 faster that time across, but it's not going to get him a position, unfortunately. Our pole sitter now comes around in the prototype class, Horatio Calquin in the 666. He's got just over a tenth ahead of Ruiz, and he's going to extend that by a little bit more. Not a whole lot, though, just a couple hundredths, as he finds himself that little bit of wiggle room.
And there goes Ruiz going faster with a 1:31.4. That's about 2/10 up. Brian Daly now crossing the line with a 32 dead. Whoo! 32 dead. That's going to put him 6th place, as here comes Harrison crossing over the line, unable to improve for Proshaka there.
Wow, Felipe Ruiz improving by a great amount and actually putting a 1/4 of a second over anybody else. Nick Johnson comes back. Johnston with a 3rd now, as he sets another one of his times. Federico Montini just ahead of his brother Francisco into 4th. The last was not his quickest. It was the quickest last time through for Francisco, who appears to have abandoned his 4th lap, so the 611 driver is not going to do any better than 5th today. Turnbull, last of our drivers to have a time in the LMP2s, now goes up to 12th, so he's no longer last of that 14-car prototype class.
And there you see Nicholas Delp crossing the line. He was able to better himself up into 12th. Here comes Kenny Rodriguez, currently back in 20th place. He's going to want to be moving up as far as he can, getting ready to cross the line. I think he's going to be able to do a little bit better there, putting in a 43 or 191. He is still going to be last, but there, Eisler able to improve, but that's going to get him 2nd. He is still not close enough to be able to take over Ruiz. Here comes Leighton across the line. Valiokis now crossing over the line. He is able to go faster, but he will still be back in 12th.
Luke Monalawi, who still holds the pole, comes across the line. Looks like he decided to pit in on his 3rd lap, and he's going to get one final flyer for lap 4, as Owen Watts, who sits in 6th, puts his final time on the board. It's not going to be faster. Interesting to note, our winner from last time out, Christoph Herbino, still down in 8th in this qualifying.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky for him to come back there, but this is a very, very different track than when we were last out at Sebring. A completely different profile, lots of elevation changes. Here comes Federico Montini coming across the line. He is unable to improve. Brett Barrett now crossing over, well off the pace for him. I think he must have had a little bobble somewhere. Justin Ream currently 12th. He's going to cross over, unable to improve once again as we get down under a minute to go here.
Josh Wolf up to 7th now, quickest on his last lap across. As we watch Jerome Bertome, looks like he found some improvement, but he'll stay put in 18th. I want to put eyes on the 9th place car, the number 92 of Herbino, to see if he can do any better. Because right now he's coming through the final corner, and this is going to be his last timed lap because the time will run out on that 4th lap. They do not get to complete the hot laps in this style of qualifying. 1:31.6 is much quicker and saved by the bell. The 92 puts himself into 4th.
And here comes Alawi coming across, just trying to better his time. He's already got about a half a tenth gap on the cars behind him, but he's going to power out of that last corner into that Porsche RSR, powering towards the line. This is gonna be ever so slightly faster with the 41.239 for him, so he's gonna be very happy with that as time expires.
Just a second to go, and Felipe Ruiz in the end took our pole over the prototype field. Christian Eisler still looking for another victory. Could today offer another chance? He'll start from 2nd. Horatio Calquin starts 3rd, and Christophe Herbinot, trying to go 2 for 2, will start on the outside of row 2. Marius Valiokas will be P5, and Nick Johnston will start in 6th, followed by Raymond Day in the 7th spot. Then it's Owen Watts in P8 and Josh Wolf in 9th. Outside of row 5, it is Byron Daly. Daniel Zegers will start 11th. Then it's Tien C. Layton in 12th. Jared Turnbull starts 13th, and David Menino wraps up your 14-car field of prototypes.
Putting in that very quick lap at the end, Uthman Alawi is going to be a P1 when it comes to the GT cars. Stephen Ash right behind him, about 2/10 off. Michael Ross and Federico Montini going to line up behind them in row 9. Rafael Russo and Francisco Montini, Federico's brother, will round out row 10. Behind them in row 11, Boris Angelo Vondo in 21st overall, followed by Anthony Pisano. Behind them, Ted Lowendick and Sean Romig. Tyler Dzube and Mac Miller going to round out row 13, followed by Justin Rim and Nicholas Delp. Brett Barrett and Harrison Proshaka are going to line up in that 15th row, putting those times in there as we start to look a little bit further back in that GT field. Aaron Webb and Jerome are going to be in 31st and 32nd overall. David Flanagan, Kenny Rodriguez in row 17, and Alessandro DiTullio not putting in a time here today will be your final qualifier.
Not sure if we'll see Alessandro out on the track, as I do not see him in the session currently. So I believe we're going to have 34 starters here today from the looks of things, split between the two classes. Slightly smaller field of LMP2s, but still a lot of talent out there. And sometimes it is luck more than talent that you need to win races, and luck is on the side of one of our members of the PRL, because the Precision Racing League held a drawing for premium members of the league where they could win a Butt Kicker Gamer 2 kit worth $180 and up to $225 in iRacing gift cards. To become a premium member of the series, simply head over to precisionracingleague.com. David Fishman did that, and he won a $75 iRacing gift card. So big congrats to David Fishman on that one. Another driver I want to mention real quickly in the LMP, or in the GT class rather. Now, usually we put the cameras on this man because he tends to paint up his helmet in ways to try to get attention to the cameras. But Teddy Lowendick this time is actually looking to try and get a good result today, because apparently his dad's birthday is tomorrow. So big happy birthday to Teddy's father, and hoping for the best in his race today.
He'll be looking to have a good one out there, as he'll be starting off 5th in class, so he's got a pretty good shot. But Joe, I have to say, these top 10 of GTEs, they are going to be absolutely tooth and nail. They were separated by under a second, almost a half a second, believe it or not, in those top 10 GTEs. So this is going to be a very, very tight battle, and one to keep an eye on here at the Glen. Well,
and let's not forget that there's a lot of long straights here. So that slipstream could keep you tucked in behind whoever you're fighting with. So not only are they going to be close on pace, but it seems that nobody's going to be able to shake anybody in that top group, at least for the early part of the race, I imagine. Could be a fascinating one to watch as we see our top class come into the boot section. I talked about it a little bit at the start, that this track has a lot of flowing corners, fast bits and whatnot, but it also has the old school nature, DJ, of these barriers. Look at how close they are. There's no runoff.
None at all. If you make even the littlest bobble here, you will be in the wall and your race will be over. So you've got to be absolutely picture perfect in every single one of these corners. And truly, what's going to be really, really interesting to watch is what happens in that first corner, Joe, the 90. It is always, always, always a breathtaking moment, hoping everybody gets through there nice and clean.
It certainly bottles up drivers, despite having a very wide exit. For some reason, we tend to see a lot of tangles on the first lap in just about every series. With only 34 cars here today, should be fewer chances to accidentally hit someone into there. But easier said than done when they're all trying to power through and get the maximum off of that corner. As our Porsche pace car comes through the final turn, Felipe Ruiz is going to have control of the field. There goes the pace car. Ruiz waits, and he's on it. Green flag, and it's a very good start for himself and Cal Quinn, his teammate. They've jumped Christian Eisler, who has suddenly fallen back. Valiokas going to slip into third, almost gets a little touch in the back, but it's a very clean start for our prototypes. Let's go to the GTEs. DJ?
In the GTEs, Alawi able to get a good start as well. Stephen Ash, though, all over the back of him, really starting to bring a big gap, almost a full second back to everybody behind. It looks like my warning was heeded. Everybody able to make it through that first corner. A-OK, but behind them, look at this battle going on between Montini, Ross, and Russo. Just a diamond of cars as they thunder out of the S's.
Montini's to the inside as they head up towards the bus stop chicane. He's going to be able to take that inner loop in first among the group, but third overall in his class. Now I see David Menino. Oh, he was on the side of the road, actually. There he is right there, just re-entering at the very back of the entire field, unfortunately.
We jump back to check a replay here of what happened to Menino. There you can see him in the wall. We're going to line up the S's. There he is. We're going to go on board with him. Lining up, you can see just how tight these cars get with that draft. A little bit of wiggle as he starts to get on the brakes here. Oh, looks like he had somebody go off in front of him, and Menino just had to take to the escape road to get it out. A little bit of damage to the car. I think he's got it slowed down enough, though, that it's not going to be too bad.
And as that was happening, Marius Valiokas in the number 7 had some sort of bobble coming out of the toe of the boot. He's fallen to 8th. That'll put Herbino, interestingly. Whoa, Herbino was up to 3rd. He's spinning right now. There you see him. And everybody's having to scatter to avoid him. I think that sent, looks like Owen Watts into the wall trying to avoid the incident.
Oh, and we're going to watch this on replay as well. There you see coming through these last corners. This is you're on board with Herbino. Oh, he just got a little bit too much of that exit curb. Caught it, slammed on the brakes. He did the complete right thing there. Owen Watts just caught out with absolutely nowhere to go. But Herbino on the brakes, not moving, being as predictable as possible. But that's going to be a definite damage to both of those drivers' races.
A bizarre start for our leaders in the LMP2s. So as we come back, we're looking at the fight for 4th now. Johnston and Daly both promoted. So is Eisler ahead of them. He is now back onto the podium. We are only on lap 2, and we've had lots of action. As we keep an eye on this, I'm also putting half an eye on our GTE leaders, because Alawi has Ash just barely 3/10 back. There he is, just under that rear wing.
Ash is just not letting Alawi get away whatsoever, just hounding him the entire way. He's not pushing too hard here. You can see there he took a little bit of a wider angle up through the toe there, just trying to maximize as much as he could. It cost him about 1/10 of a second, I think, getting out of it. But Ash is just dogging Alawi, seeing if he can force him into a mistake. It's an hour-long race, so I don't think he's going to go for anything too bold and brash here, but just being smart and trying to pressure.
And you talked about earlier how this is such a different track to what we had before. It seems to really be playing itself out in both the classes, because Ruiz is leading up there while Herbino had all sorts of problems. Ovando, a winner in the GTEs, is down in 6th rather. He's 22. And in fact, he's side by side with Francisco Montini, who's going to be able to get around the outside of him. As a little bit of a blip for Boris, must be a bit of internet issues. Behind them trying to get back into his class is David Menino after his lap 1 incident.
Oh, Oh, that's so hard for Menino if you catch slower cars as you get up through the S's. And here we go. This is where it's almost like you're driving an oval on this circuit. Is there you can go on board with Menino sticking out to the outside of that. But they're going to go multiple wide. That's Ovando and Montini. And Menino has nowhere to go. He's forced to just tuck up behind them on the brakes. Absolute heartbreak. He is going to be kicking himself, not able to make anything happen down that straight.
Yeah, it seems pretty costly at this point, trying to get back ahead of these cars in overall position. They're not even getting blue flags right now through the sim, so they might not have warning that Menino is going to be flashing by. Finally, he's through that group, and he's got 5 more to go before he's got clear air in front of him. Meanwhile, we continue to watch Montini giving chase on Ovando in the midst of a train, we should say, because Anthony Pisano is behind him, and Teddy Lowendick back in 9th also in this fight.
Yeah, they're keeping this scrap up very, very well. Felipe Ruiz there, you see, setting the fastest lap, pulling out that gap to about 1.6 seconds for the lead. But we're going to stay with this GT fight because this train of GTs is absolutely incredible to watch. You just see how they are dogging each other here. It's almost like you're watching a procession of some kind, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row.
Makes me wonder, though, because we tend to see fuel-saving tactics at this track, but with it being multi-class, that might be a little bit more difficult. I wonder if now's the time when some of these drivers could find it more effective to just tuck in behind somebody.
I think it's certainly a good strategy to do here when, I mentioned a little bit earlier, coming up the S's, it's a lot like driving an oval. You can just sit there, you're going to be affected by the dirty air coming off of you, so you're going to have to breathe the throttle potentially a little bit to get the angle right. But if you're going to go for the pass, you have to time it perfectly. If you catch somebody in the S's, you're going to be done and dusted, and it's not going to work. But as we watch these guys go through there, you saw that throttle on the steering wheel just feathering ever so slightly. So, Joe, I think you're right. There may be a little bit of fuel saving playing in.
I can report that Menino has passed all of the GTE cars and is now setting his sights forward. Owen Watts, unfortunately, did have to tow into the pits after his incident coming into lap 2. So he might be done for the day very early. But up at the front of the GTEs, Alawi and Ash still split by only half a second, and they're leaving Federico Montini in 3rd behind. He's lost 2 seconds to those top 2.
Here, we're going to go on board right now with Michael Ross. You can see him all over the back of Montini there, really trying to get it around. Joe, that's one of the corners I talked about where you've got to be super patient getting onto the throttle to get it right. Here they go. This corner is normally just about flat out. Both drivers keep it there through. Now brush onto the brakes ever so slightly. You see that wiggle there from Montini, just trying to keep that car from over-rotating. And here comes Ross powering through. Now, if he can get this just right, get the power absolutely perfect out of the 90. Who closes up during braking, and I think that's going to cost him a little bit of time.
Indeed, cost him a lot on the exit, and now Rafael Russo is going to challenge him for it, make that Ford pay. The Corvette has the speed at first and then drops back. Now it comes back to him as the S's weave back and forth. Shorter distance for Russo in the 21. He decides better of it and lets go before they hit the inner loop.
And I think Ross there was a little bit lucky as well that Montini was able to be on the left side of the track and he was able to pick up a little bit of tow from him. That helped his overall straight line speed. And you can see there having to back off like that for Rusto, really costing him a couple of tenths of a second, but he will be able to catch it up very, very quickly. That Corvette very quick off the line.
Ooh, let's head back to Ash. Ash is looking very strong in some of these corners and was tucked under the rear wing of Alawi coming through the toe of the boot. Now we hit his dash as the 11 tries to challenge and sees if he could deny Alawi a second win, or his first win rather, in the second race. Utman just unable to take care of business back at Sebring despite having incredible pace that race.
You saw there from Ash just how brave he is on those brakes. He's got that Porsche working to perfection. He was able to be so much later coming through turn 9 there. So I think that could really come into play if Ash wants to push his advantage here. He hasn't really gone for anything crazy yet, But if he's going to make a pass, I think his best chance to do it is going to be out of the 90 here. Let's see what happens there. You can see him close up a little bit. Constantina effect coming into play. He goes a little bit wider there, Ash does, just trying to maximize speed on that. They're going to fly up through the S's. It looks like Alawi's got a little bit of a better run out of the 90 and through these corners, so nothing happening here for Ash, but he will be closing with the draft.
Porsche versus Porsche. All comes down to setup and the driver between them. They are in dead even machinery otherwise. Through the inner loop. I'm starting to wonder, though, Ash seems a bit better in the technical sections. I kind of wonder if he's got more wing in it.
I was actually thinking the exact same thing, Joe. It looks like Alawi's able to really pull out over the course of that first sector, and then the second sector, when you get down into the boot, that is when Ash is just able to reel him back in. So those varying setups could very, very easily be playing in. There you see it, that Constantina as they go through the corner, a little bit of a wiggle getting the power on there for Alawi, but he's able to keep it nice and even, but that gap definitely shrinking here in Sector 2.
We described it as a sprint race earlier, and it definitely is, but 60 minutes is a decent amount of time, especially for these tires to go through. And I just noticed that this sun that we're seeing beating down is heating up the track significantly. It's 101 Fahrenheit on the pavement currently, so almost wonder if we'll see a few drivers maybe taking it easy at the start of this race to see if it pays dividends towards the end.
I think you would have to. It's very, very easy to get a little bit of tire spin in these cars, or get a little bit of, snap oversteer if track greases up a little bit. But here you see, oh my goodness, that is Stephen Ash really closing in on Alawi. This is the closest he's been through this fast sector, sector 1. Through the S's, Ash has got a really good run here. That gap down under 0.3 of a second and closing.
Got the slipstream, but I don't think he has enough backstretch. Yeah, both of them getting on the binders. It wasn't anywhere near enough to try and send one up the inside through there. Just bides his time and continues to play patient behind Uthman Alawi. Similar situation happening between Ruiz and Calquin, except for our prototypes. Ruiz has been slowly stretching away from the 666. 3 seconds between P1 and P2.
Yeah, Ruiz is just putting on a master class here. You can see it there. Just getting on that power perfectly, going his way through the outer loop. I absolutely love that corner in the LMP2s. It's so much fun to just try to slide the power around. And you can see him, although he is going to start coming up on the back of some lap traffic, so that'll make things a little bit more difficult for our leader, but he shouldn't have too many problems if his pace is any indication.
Just noticing that myself, that could change the complexion of things. Gets to the first few cars, Prochaska all by himself, so really no problems there. But then he's got battles for position. Rodriguez, Flanagan, Bertome, Barrett, all in a train of cars.
Yeah, it's going to be real tough, and hoy, there you see him start to jink out to the inside there. Very, very terrible place to pick up traffic in between turns 10 and 11. He's going to go around the outside there of, that was Flanagan. Oh my goodness gracious, that is a gutsy move. And now he's able to dispatch, that looks like Barrett and Webb on the straight, so a little bit easier there for our leader. It's cut his gap down to about a second over Calquin, but Calquin will have to deal with the same lap traffic.
Good news is Flanagan definitely telegraphed that early to make sure he was aware, but look at how much in the S's we've got Calquin getting held up himself, and up on the high side, that's Brett Barrett, who's towing him along with some other cars side by side into the corner. Bertome's going to get overtaken by Flanagan. The 24 gets 17th with a wily move in traffic.
Very, very heads-up play there, using that LMP2 to his advantage and dropping him back. And also Calquin just having some amazing guts there to be able to split the difference and go right in between those two cars. But after everything has gotten said and done on that, Ruiz's gap back to Calquin, back up to a healthy 3.6 seconds.
And look how much farther into the corner they send those prototypes. Really able to just stomp on the brakes with the downforce that those things provide. Certainly makes it scary as they come up to you in a hurry. Let's head back to P13 in our GT class. Justin Rehm is just behind Miller, Romig, and Lowendick. And now they're going to be joined by our leader, Ruiz. Is this going to throw a cat amongst the pigeons?
Very well might. Ruiz looking like he's enjoying way too much overtaking in that tricky area, so credit where credit is due. I know when I've driven the LMP2s in a track, I would never try to overtake there, but he gets it, gets another couple of lap cars, but there comes the battle, tooth and nail. That's going to force him back ever so slightly as they go up through the S's. That's Lowendick and Romig.
He's got Romig right on his gearbox. And Mac Miller pulling the slipstream as well, trying to time it like you were describing before, using the draft to get his car to the inside, as now second place in the prototypes comes up behind, but he doesn't think he's got enough. Romig settles for 11th once again. Cal Quinn's now going to try and pick each one of them off. Around the outside of the carousel, he gets at least one, then another before the chute. Still has to wait patiently behind Lowendick before he is able to promote himself up into the top 10 of the GTEs. There he goes. And all of this has not been helping the 666. Whoa! We got a car upside down. That's Federico Montini.
Montini. I was looking
at
Ovando. Oh my goodness! I think they came together.
Oh no!
Oh, and there's more of it.
Oh, that was. We're trying to figure out who that was that just ran into him. I think it was Raymond Day and somebody else. So we're going to see the initial start of it.
Yeah, they come in there. That's Ross right behind him in the GT. So Montini, this is coming down into turn 7, the toe. He comes in here. Does he get a little love tap? It looks like he does. And oh, Ovando comes right into the back of him. Montini's car just continues him up and over. And then here comes the second contact we're waiting for. He sees some prototypes coming, tries to get back around. Ovando does. And I think Ovando's car forced Day up into Montini, and that's what happened there.
Yep. So that not only compromised many of our drivers in the GT class, but Raymond Day getting severe damage. Josh Wolf got a small piece of it himself. We just had to change for position just behind this in our LMP2s. Nick Johnston and Christian Eisler swapping P3.
And there you see Johnson on your screen. Eisler's day not going well as that continues on. Started very well, but then fell off as soon as the green flag fell. Eisler, though, always a consistent driver, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see him come alive a little bit later on in this session. But right now, it's Johnson starting to close in on Cal Quinn, and that is going to be about a gap of 2 seconds. So he's got some work to do, but it's not over yet. And there you see Eisler in the back of your screen, able to quickly dispatch that traffic. He is nowhere near letting Johnston go.
Only a quarter of the way into this thing, and already we've seen some major wrecks and some very fierce battles. As coming around to complete another lap, Christian Eisler giving chase on Nick Johnston. Has lost about 0.8 of a second. That traffic certainly didn't help things. Raymond Day, in the meantime, is actually out of the pits from his repairs. So he's going to return a lap down, but he's able to continue. Glad to see he's not going to give this one up quickly. Unfortunately, Montini and Ovando are still sitting in pit lane, taking quite a few repairs on those cars.
I have to admit, I'm a little bit surprised Day was able to get in and out as fast as he was. It was some pretty heavy front-end damage that he took, so clearly that LMP2 having a little bit of a sturdier frame than I'm giving it credit for.
Now, down in 6, we've got Tyler DeZube ahead of Lowendick, who we were watching earlier, and Romig, but I think they just got split up by Jared Turnbull, who was trying to lap these cars. They were much closer just a moment ago. Francisco Montini, the other Montini, is in there. Mac Miller still giving chase, and Justin Rehm, another one that we took a look at not too long ago. They come down into the toe of the boot. So this essentially is going amongst 5 cars, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th.
It really is, and you saw there as that was Turnbull cutting his way through there, you were right. Just what it can do, not only do LMP battles when GTs get in the way, but what happened in a GT battle when an LMP2 gets in the way, you can see how it just spreads out those cars. But now Lowendick right up behind Zube, gonna try to get something to happen here. This is the battle for 6th. He's a little far back right now to make anything happen, but as he comes through this final turn 11, he's gonna see if he can get a better run off of that corner. It doesn't look like he got much. In fact, I think he fell back a little bit.
Yeah, it just seems to be a little spread apart now, unfortunately. While we've got the opportunity, I want to give some attention to one of our hard chargers. The number 6 of Byron Daly, who is in 6th position right now, is up 4 spots. And I want to say we talked about this last time, so hopefully we're not jinxing him again, because I seem to recall he had some issues after we had praised his climb forward at Sebring. At this point, it's still early days, but he's taken advantage of others slipping up on either side to be able to promote himself. Well, he's got about a second and a half to get up to Valiokas, who I do believe had some issues on the first lap. So not impossible to try and ride his way up with the number 7, see if he can use him to carry himself along.
No, not impossible at all. And Joe, you know, we talked a lot about the draft, but we haven't talked about when it starts to come into effect. Typically in these LMP2s, I have seen the draft be able to get a little bit of an effect starting at about a second and a half. If you are within that gap to the car in front, that's about where it will be. And it's roughly the same for the GTEs. So that's what he's going to be looking at. And for Daly here, he is certainly going to be within that window. Daly sitting only 1.3 seconds back, so that's going to be enough for him to get a little bit of a tow. It's not going to be a whole lot. It is exponential, but he is going to get just a few miles an hour out of it.
So as we watch him work his way up the S's, they've made their way through the GT cars for the first time, and they're getting a little bit of clean air before they'll have to wrap around and do it again. So first 15 minutes, so we should see them lap them about 4 times. Meanwhile, Josh Wolf has been having a bit of a miserable day lately. I think he did indeed get some damage from that contact with the cars such as Montini and Day coming together. He's now down in 10th, and I want to say he's lost about 4 or 5 positions in the last 3 laps or so. Yeah, there we can see it. Driver's left front of the car, all scratched up and banged up.
Yeah, you can see that tire poking out a little bit as now it looks like Jared Turnbull is setting his sights on him. So Wolf's day going from bad to worse. Just that little bit of damage on that left front. You can see how it affects them in both the mechanical grip of the car and more specifically the aero grip when you're dealing with some of the high-speed corners here around here at Watkins Glen.
He's got to wait a little bit longer. Ooh. A lot of sawing at the wheel there coming out of turn 9. I know it's off camera, but that did not seem comfortable. I wonder at what point can he try ducking a pit lane, maybe get early repairs. He's not going to this time, apparently. A 37 left. We're getting close to the halfway mark. Still bringing along Jared Turnbull just behind him.
Yeah, I think for Wolf here, he's going to want to try to maybe wait another 3 or 4 laps if he can. I imagine the pits window is going to be between about 35 and 25 minutes to go. So that 10-minute window is where you're going to want to come in, be able to make it work nice and easy. So if he can hold it out for just a little bit longer, as there you see he did just get passed by Turnbull, so put him back in 10th. If he can make it work, it'd be great, but he needs to come in quickly as he is just losing time in buckets.
Oh, Valiokas with a problem. The 7 is around. This is out of the toe of the boot. I think this is self-made.
Well, here we'll watch the replay. This is him. Yep, remember what I said, Joe. You get on the power a little bit too early. That car just wants to understeer, push wide, and that's exactly what happened there for Valiokas. He's able to catch it, get back going, and no damage to that car. The only damage is going to be to his ego.
And that car that you saw kind of wobbling around trying to avoid him, that was Daly. He's now up to a top 5, so 5 spots up for the number 6 as he crosses the line one more time. Herbino's behind him. Now, Herbino is slightly out of place because of his first lap incident. He's climbed his way back up to 6th, but he qualified 4th, so he's still out of position. That could make Byron sweat somewhat. There you see last round's winner coming up through the S's onto the backstretch, foot flat to the floor, picking up speed up to 177, 180 miles an hour, and then he gets onto the binders, it down for the inner loop.
And Joe, I'm just looking at lap times, and you know, Herbino was able to have a pretty clean track the last lap out, as did a lot of his rivals around him, but he is about a half a second faster than anybody else on track right now. So Christoph Herbino just absolutely putting that pedal to the floor.
Not going to slow down for anybody. Maybe he thinks that a win might still be on the cards. He's about 15 seconds back from Ruiz. Although as I look at the comparison between his times and Christoph's, looks like he's still a little bit slower. No, he is faster, actually, about half a second over Felipe Ruiz. So you're right. Man, Herbino has a fire lit under him.
He really, really does, just trying to gain as much as humanly possible. He's got that gap now up to Daly under 2 seconds, so he is just absolutely powering away. And the way that they are right now, just looking quickly, he's got one lapped car in front of him, but outside of that, they've got about a half a track, a half a circuit worth of clean air. So he is just going to be able to absolutely go. There you see quick dive to the inside of that first S, get up and around Montini, and he is on his way, cutting that gap further and further.
So Daly's last laps for comparison, 33.4, 33.5, 33.5. Oh, but a problem for Nick Johnston, just bumps Daly up to 4th now. Another inherited position for the number 6 car. Oh, and he had to take a wide line to get around that Penske liveried machine.
And here we're going to see this incident play out in full. Goes in here to the bus stop, gets a little bit too much of that inside curve on the first part. Whoa-ha! I am absolutely very terrified for Byron Daly. Good for him. Very easy to do in these cars, Joe. These LMP2s, they are not a big fan of curves. You've got to be very careful getting them right. The littlest bump will unsettle them.
It's all that oval practice. Byron Daly, probably pretty familiar with wreck avoidance. So he's clearly putting it to good use here today. Now up to 4th. It may have lost him a little bit of time. I'm noticing that Herbino has it down to 0.8 of a second and is chipping away. We're gonna watch Herbino in the 92 now through the 90. He's absolutely going to feel that slipstream. It's down to 0.6 of a second. This one's going to be hard to hold off. Byron might have to find himself slotted back into 5th.
He might. As just a quick note, Joshua Wolf diving into the pits. He's the first one of the LMP drivers to do so. But Herbino, I think, may not be able to get it done here necessarily unless he's really, really late on the brakes. He came a little bit late and wide coming out of the 90. Had to jerk the steering wheel quickly back to the left. But here's he goes down the inner loop. Daly shuts him off, though.
Some brave stuff from Herbino. Thinking he could maybe get this one done quickly. Not quick enough for his taste. Once again, aggressive as he breaks late into the chute. Almost slides the car off the racing line in the process. Now down through the toe of the boot. As he's setting himself up for a better corner exit. He tries, but can't quite find any advantage over the number 6.
Daly doing a really good job of defensive driving here, just putting that car exactly where he needs to do. I think, if my eyes aren't deceiving me, he is just a hair late getting on the throttle, throwing Herbino off his game ever so slightly, and it's working. You saw him run a little bit wide there through the heel. Here we go into turn 10. Now this is going to be a good shot for Herbino. Runs a little bit wider. That's going to let him carry a little bit more speed. Brush of the brakes here. Look how faster Herbino is coming out of that last turn. Here he goes in the slipstream. Is he going to make the move down into the 90?
He's got the inside, the desired line into that right-hander. And he's going to complete the pass. Daly doesn't fight it too hard. He saw the writing on the wall. Herbino now finally back up to where he started this race in 4th place. Still has 13.5 seconds to make up to our overall leader, but 3.5 seconds to get up to Eisler.
And even with all that battling, Joe, Herbino was one of the fastest LMP2s on the track last lap, out 0.6 faster than Eisler in front of him. So this is going to be a battle for sure.
No doubt about that. The battle for the lead in the GTEs has stayed pretty stationary, if we're honest. Ash, about half a second back from Alawi. It's hovered around there for multiple laps. Oh, and what happened between Daly and that Corvette? Did he actually make contact there?
All right, we're going to go on board here.
Oh, that was Herbino that hit him.
Yeah, this is Daly's on board riding. You see Herbino up in front there. Oh, I think that vet just didn't think he was coming by, moved back on to take the racing line. You saw how quickly he moved back the minute he felt that contact. So just a little bit of accidental carelessness there. I don't think anything malicious.
Sometimes those careless moments, though, can cost you a race big time. So, got to be careful. Sounds like our 3rd place driver in the prototypes indeed is down pit lane. So the 666 going to give up his track position to split this one pretty much perfectly in half. We've also got a good fight for 5th in the GTEs. Pisano just ahead of Dzube. Right on the gearbox of Anthony. Watching the number 13, poke and prod, hoping he can find a spot. He goes wide coming through the chute. Dzube then has to pinch the exit a little bit. That compromises his speed. He's going to be on the outside once again, this time into the toe of the boot. Maybe going for an over-under, and he gets a decent exit. It could be there if he's brave. They pick up speed up to the heel of the boot. You sometimes see passes into here, but not this time. The 13 decides better of it.
I thought for sure there Dzube was going to have that, but just not able to get the job done. Here they come up through 9 as they make their way now onto this tricky section. And there you can see just hovering in the background there, that is Ted Lowendick, maybe hoping for a little bit of calamity happening in front of him, but Dzube really backs off there through turn 11. Not able to really keep up the pressure, hoping for the draft potentially to help him as they go up through the S's.
And a wrench in the works with Felipe Ruiz going to be lapping all of these cars. The leader of the prototypes has just gone by Lowendick. Now he's got to pick his way past Dzube. Kind of compromises him a little bit. Dzube offline through the S's just when he needs all the speed possible. Doesn't really cost anything for Anthony Pisano. That worked way better for the 55 than it did the 13.
Yeah, Dzube definitely losing a couple of tenths there, but he was able to really gain through this second sector. So we'll have to see if he can do that once again. But it looks like as of right now, Pisano's got the edge.
When are we going to see our prototypes come in? They tend to have a little bit of a smaller pit window. So just over a half an hour, and we're 33 minutes into this thing. There is our leader, Ruiz. Will probably be our first sign on whether or not you can go another lap here. We're on lap 21 currently in the race.
Just under that halfway point, like you said there, you see darting to the outside, LMP2 leader coming on through. Is he going to be the one to dive into the pits here? No, no, he is not. He is going to stay out for another lap. So he thinks he's got the fuel to stretch it. And Joe, we've talked about it every time we see this series. The more you're able to stretch, the less fuel you've got to put in on the back end. So that's only going to help him.
Also worth noting that Christian Eisler is well behind him. It's about 10.4 seconds. And I think he's got both Daly and Herbino approaching him. Yes, indeed. Herbino's about a second and a half back from Eisler, continuing to chip away In fact, he's down to 12 seconds behind our overall leader. Still much faster than Felipe Ruiz. Man, Christoph's got to be kicking himself knowing that even if he didn't have the qualifying, he certainly would have had the race pace to possibly make it 2 for 2 as we get Nick Johnston down the lane in our prototypes.
Yeah, so Johnston, the next to your pitters, is there. You see Ruiz making a very, very aggressive move around the toe to get by some of that lapped GT traffic. Now, it's all eyes going to be on him here. If my pit calculation was about right, I've got to think he's going to be coming in this lap or next, not able to stretch it a whole lot longer unless he has an Alexander Rossi-like right foot.
Ruiz around the penultimate turn and up to the final corner. Let's see if DJ's got his calculations correct. Nicely done, sir. We are good at math sometimes. As the 58 takes his stop. Eisler, we have to wait a while for him to come around to see if he'll follow, and he does. Herbino does not, though.
All right, interesting from Herbino. I think there's a good chance that he may be able to jump him in the pit stops. Eisler, that is, Daly in as well, still waiting for Zegers, Leighton, and Turnbull to pop by. As Zegers comes in, Leighton stays out, it looks like.
Turnbull also in. And it's a long gap to the next car down, Horatio Calquin, who is already pitted. Back to the first of our pitters here in the prototypes. You see Ruiz getting his service done, and Eisler as well. Eisler's out. In fact, holy cow, excuse me. That was Eisler still stationary. Ruiz is the one that is out early.
But a longer stop there for the Ruiz, about 2 seconds longer in the box. Obviously, he had such a big gap. I don't think that's going to affect him too much, but that is a very quick, good stop for Eisler. So either he is short fueling or he just knows that he can make this work, or there's also, I guess, the potential that Felipe Ruiz just playing it a little bit safer, making sure he doesn't have to go into any fuel-saving modes.
Horatio Calquin also returns back to second place where he was before this pit stop sequence. So nothing gained, nothing lost, although he's now 7 seconds behind Ruiz. Now that both of them have completed it, we're watching Herbino on the screen being held up quite a bit by GT traffic, just at the wrong place for him as he has to park it on the apex behind them. Now he is down pit lane. Leighton is our only other one, along with Menino, who still need to get in for fuel. Don't really think we'll see Herbino be able to catch Ruiz. However, Calquin, Eisler, those are completely different questions.
Very much so, as you just saw Ruiz making his way in between turns 10 and 11 as Herbino comes to a stop. So Ruiz is going to breeze by here, waiting in the pit lane. He's got about 10 more seconds based off of what we've seen Herbino does. So here it comes.
Calquin is through. Herbino starts moving. Where's Christian Eisler? This is going to be very tight. Is he going to be able to have him? He's just barely ahead. Eisler, though's got the slipstream. He could try and overtake him right here. His tires are up to temperature, while Herbino's has been sitting and cooling in his pit stall. What is this going to do between the pair? Christian Eisler closes in, looks to the outside. Lap traffic in front of them in the form of Aaron Webb, and is just not gutsy enough to go for it. Eisler settles back into fourth.
Oh, but he gets very, very caught out there by Webb as they came around the corner, had to check up on the brakes, but fortunately for him, Eisler had to check up as well, so nothing gained or lost there between the two. But for the moment, Christoph Herbino able to move himself up into a podium position, and he is only about 4.3 seconds up the road from Horatio Calquin. So I think that gap is certainly manageable with the speed we've been seeing Herbino put in.
Waiting for the times to update between Herbino and Calquin, as well as Ruiz, to see if he really does have a realistic shot at taking victory today. If so, it'll be a Perez-esque victory if he can do that, going all the way down to the back of the field early on and climbing his way back forward. He comes through the final corner. It looks like, yes, he gained about a second in that exchange. So not dramatic. Still, I wouldn't put it completely off the table. Still waiting for our GT drivers to pit. As we come to 5th here. Looking at the battle between Pisano and Zube. That's Pisano in the leading Porsche. The one behind is Tyler Zube in the number 13. Going to have to be put offline slightly by Raymond Day. Did that compromise Pisano enough to give Zube a shot at the spot? No, it does not. Stay in line. It's the top 5 is still out there if he wants it. Maybe if he can find a better mistake. He's pushing hard, though. Car squirming as he tries to get the throttle down coming out of the toe of the boot. Still no sign that he's intent on trying to overtake as they go through the heel of the boot.
He looks very, very patient. Obviously, these GTs able to go a little bit longer on a tank than anybody else, so that's really coming into effect here. But I would suspect to see them in within about 5 minutes or so. But right now, Zube just seeming content. I think, Joe, you mentioned a little bit earlier, saving fuel as here they come, peeling on off. That is Anthony Pisano into the pits.
So the leading car goes in first. This is interesting. Not typically what you see here in this series. Usually it's the trailing car that tries an alternate strategy, pitting early and trying to leapfrog them. Pisano hits his marks. The only other car to have taken what I believe is a scheduled stop is Francisco Montini, currently in 14th. Done and dusted. Pisano is in and out. Return him in, it looks like, 11th spot.
That's about right. Pisano now just going to have to put in some good times and hope here. As we check back in on our leaders, Uthman Alawi and Stephen Ash, this battle has absolutely continued through the entirety of the race. Nothing between these two. Ash just very content to sit back and wait. About 2 laps ago, he had a thought about going down the inside. You can see how close he is. He darts out a little bit early there. I think he's starting to feel the pressure, wants to get a move on and try to get something by Uthman Alawi.
He's really applying the pressure at this point, making sure that the 444 has to work for this victory if he wants it. Both of them going on past, though. Neither really electing to try and take the stop this time through. This is the closest we've seen Ash. If he gets a decent exit out of the 90, does he actually try to affect the pass, or is he going to continue to just ride behind? Could this be more fuel-saving shenanigans? Didn't get quite a great exit. Slipstream's still going to help him.
It's going to help him ever so slightly, but there you see him darting out to the inside, just kind of thinking about maybe making a move, but not really going for it. Raymond Day starting to close in behind them very quickly, as well as Felipe Ruiz about 2.5 seconds back, so they're going to have some LMP2s to contend with, and Day, that is Day thinking about making a move on him, decides not to. This could get very, very tricky depending on how they play this.
And as this happened, Horatio Calquin has unfortunately had an internet connection problem. He is no longer in second place. Herbino gets promoted. Eisler gets promoted. And we just heard from Malawi over the radio. He is pitting in. Oh, and here comes another prototype. That is our leader, Felipe Ruiz, in no mood to try and sit around. He knows that Herbino has no one between himself and Ruiz. And he's got quicker pace if he's been paying attention. So obviously he is hustling.
He is very, very hustling there. That move through the heel, turn 8, very, very aggressive from him. As here we watch, you see indeed Alawi's going to come in and Ash right behind. Ooh. That's a bit of a surprise, Joe.
Wow, Ash was much stronger on the brakes coming into the lane, wasting nothing as he tries to maximize that pit entry. Can he manage to jump him in the pit stops here? This is going to be an intense one, especially since Ash has been sitting back there for so long. He could have either saved fuel or he could just try and short fuel just to get that track position. Waiting patiently.
And
He's out ahead of
there
him.
he goes.
He's done it by a big margin. Alawi is nowhere to be seen. My goodness.
And we're hearing there, I think that may have been a situation where Alawi overshot the pit box ever so slightly, so that may have less to do with fuel and more to do with a little bit of a driver error from Uthman.
Interesting stuff. The gap as they get up to speed is about 2.5 seconds. That's much bigger than what Alawi had over Ash. Oh, wow. So Uthman, if he gets another second place, is going to be feeling a little bit of frustration, I imagine, knowing that he'll miss out twice on what could have been wins. Russo currently leads in this class as we've got a side-by-side battle between Pisano and Dzube. Anthony's going to come out on top between them.
Able to hold him off again for the moment, but Tyler Dzube not going anywhere. Ted Lowendick still just sitting there in the popcorn position. Really, this battling allowing him to catch up. Now, all of these guys have been into the pits. Pisano on lap 23, Dzube on 25, and Lowendick on 25. So they're there, and there is nothing between these three Porsches. But David Menino, the 10th place LMP2 coming up behind, that could throw a real wrench into this.
Dick still looking for a good birthday present for his dad, and he could have 2 more spots to offer up here. Can Menino maybe pave the way for him if he lets him through at the right time? Oh, it's going to put him offline in an already awkward corner. Too wide through there, and he suddenly finds himself multiple car lengths back.
A little bit of a heartbreak there for Lowendick, but depending on how this move goes, no, I think it looks like that Menino is going to be smart, just wait, and so that's not going to be a disadvantage there to Pisano in front of him as he's going to breeze on by. But depending on how this move goes, that may be a little bit of a checkup for the leader, Pisano, ever so slightly. Dzube able to draw back in a little bit. That's going to be a good draft for him. I think this could be a move for Dzube. He's got the speed through the S's.
Starts to pull him in just ahead of them. Russo and Ross are also trading third place. In fact, they're side by side through the bus stop, and it looks like Russo's going to be able to take the position.
And ahead of them, Joshua Wolf off into the grass. But here, we're going to go on a quick replay for this. I think, yep, it's same thing that happened earlier. We saw, guys, this happen. You get up over those curbs on the first part of the bus stop, and it'll spin you right around.
And that was directly in front of Stephen Ash. That was our leader in the GTEs that had to narrowly avoid getting into him. He lost a couple tenths to Alawi. Those couple tenths could wind up being critical.
Yeah, Alawi now able to be within about 1.9 seconds to the leader of Ash. So that is still enough to maybe play it in, but we saw just how quick Stephen Ash was tucked up behind the Porsche of Alawi. We'll now have to see how he does in clean air, but Alawi able to take another 10th out during that ending sector there of 9 and 10. So that battle anywhere but over right now, Joe.
Well, this is going to be a tense one. I'd love to see what Alawi can do if he can actually get to the back of the number 11 and try and race him for the victory. They're going to get some company from Raymond Day, who's finishing his final stop, and have to overtake them one more time. 12 minutes left to go in this race, and I'd say it's far from over. The 444 still has a shot at trying to deny Stephen Ash from victory. 1.3 seconds now. I think Alawi has better speed.
I think he does too. He's really just putting it in here and going for broke. You see that gap coming down about a half a second, down another tenth there. Granted, there is that LMP2 getting in the way, so that'll hurt a little bit, but at the same time, Alawi just really coming on strong.
1.3 seconds. Up to Stephen Ash. Let's not forget this lap traffic. And behind him, we didn't see it on screen, but Josh Wolf is struggling with his car. He spun the tires just behind Alawi. If he was watching that, he's got to be feeling a little bit nervous, because Wolf's already given a scare to Stephen Ash at least once.
He has there, you see him. That damage on that car still clearly plaguing him a little bit, although it looks like he got the majority of it repaired. Even if he did, Joe, you know, it can just be such a mental game. You make one mistake earlier in the race and it just starts to mess with you as it goes along, and you find it harder and harder and harder to do.
Ash was way wide off of the final corner as we got a side-by-side battle between Lowendick and Dzube. Teddy spies an opportunity. Can he finish it up? He's got the inside coming down into the 90. Pops his head over to the right side. Lowendick braking late, seeing if he can get by Tyler. Tyler goes wide off the corner, carries the speed better, and says, "Not today. Sorry, Teddy."
And that was about a 2-wide battle from turn 9 all the way to turn 1. Really heads up there from Lowendick, that little jump back to the inside to just pick up the minuscule bit of draft that he could, but he's got a mega run through the S's. Here he goes, fakes to the right, goes to the left. He's going to have to go on the inside here as they go in for the second part, but Lowendick, again, a little bit more shy on the brakes, a little bit more hesitant, and that allows for Dzube to keep that other Porsche in front of him.
Lowendick in 7th, looking for 6th position, and certainly poking and prodding quite a bit on Dzube. They come out of the chute. He's dropped back, but he'll be able to rack him up and try again later. He's still got 10 minutes to do it.
All the time in the world for Ten Lowendick. He is just being very, very smart about this, making his presence known, but not making any unnecessary lunges. It's really, really good heads-up play, putting in a great, great top 10 race here for Ten Lowendick.
As this has been happening, Alawi has continued to eat away at the gap up to Stephen Ash. It is now down to half a second between the pair of them. There you see them crossing the start-finish line one more time. I think that Alawi has got the measure of Stephen Ash. We always say it, though, DJ, it's one thing to catch a car, it's another to pass them. Does Stephen have any sort of resource to try and fend himself off?
Well, he frankly has the natural advantage of Watkins Glen. It is a notoriously difficult track to actually get a good pass done. The most ideal situation is right where they are right there, going into that bus stop, but that's really only one car wide. So if he's able to defend a little bit up through the S's and down that long straightaway, maybe try to break the draft here and there, he's got a chance to hold it off. He can do it.
It's down to 0.3 of a second for a brief moment. Alawi's now getting to where he could be within striking range. A little bobble here or there from Stephen will open the door, including going wide off a corner just like that. He salvages it, though. Let's keep the cameras here, but an update for those wondering about Herbino and Ruiz. I think Felipe has responded to Christoph, and it's just about stuck at 11 seconds between them. And I think Ruiz is just managing the race from here. Meanwhile, managing this race is going to be oh so much harder for the number 11 car, and they are taking every inch of this track as they get it right out to the edges of the boundaries.
Pushing very, very wide on every corner, trying to extract everything that they can. Now, we saw just how well cars have been able to catch up past the 90, past this first turn. Alawi's got a good run here down the pit straight, diving in through the 90. We'll have to see who can carry more speed. Both cars running wide. That is not an off track. That is a perfectly reasonable line to take. It looks like, though, that Ash has got a little bit more speed through the S's, but Alawi closing fast.
Well, this is the best opportunity we've seen yet since the pit stops. He looks around the outside as Ash stays defensive, using your advice, DJ, just making sure to cover him off and park it on the apex.
Good defense there from Ash, but the thing is that Alawi's got to know is if you do that lap in and lap out, it gets very, very tiring, and it will make Ash prone to a mistake. So he's going to have to stay super sharp to get it right.
Into the toe of the boot. Now down to 7 minutes left on the clock. Ash racing from the mirrors at this point, watching, seeing if Utman is going to be able to get the track position that he needs, how he needs to defend on him. This is going to be great stuff here if these two don't go away from one another. They've got 5 seconds back to Rafael Russo, who sits in third in that class, so no pressure from behind.
No, none at all. They can just focus on this battle, and this battle only is there. You see Stephen Ash able to get a little bit of a better run coming out of the boot, out of turn 9, so he's able to get a little bit more speed. That gap now back out to about a half a second, so Alawi's going to have to be a little bit more patient here. Maybe think about a different way to sell that pass. If I'm Alawi, I'm going to be really starting to set up a dummy, trying to make Ash jink to the inside and then dive to the outside, something like that, to just get him to move to where I want his car to be, not where Ash wants his car to be.
Clearly much faster in a straight line. Uthman knows that if he can get ahead, it'll be harder for him to be overtaken. And once again, it plays out almost exactly like it did before.
Just not able to get that closing distance he needs. He really has to have a perfect exit out of the 90, or maybe try to catch him napping in one of these corners up through the boot. I think that's going to be Uthman's best opportunity to do it, as we've seen Ash knows how to defend into the inner loop.
They've got Felipe Ruiz coming up behind as well. Last time he came through this pair, he kind of interrupted it. So let's see what he does this time. Along the sole. Ooh, and going a little bit defensive. Stephen Ash maybe showing that he does not want Ruiz to try and get to the inside of him. Ruiz doesn't get the opportunity regardless, but now he is absolutely going to take the line away. The apex is nowhere to be found for poor Stephen Ash, and that costs him some time. Alawi can't make an overtake, but he does see some openings happening here and there. And eventually he's going to pounce on one of them.
He certainly is, and looking, they've got a pretty good gap back here. Herbino is just on the straight now, and behind him, Eisler's a good ways back as well. So this looks like it's going to be a pretty solid battle with just these two. Both cars running super, super wide there. It looks like Alawi took a little bit of grass with him up onto the track, so that's going to slow him down maybe by a fraction of a second. Not a whole lot, but that closing speed once again out of that Porsche coming in fast. Here we go. Same thing, different lap.
Defensive, comes back as far to the racing line as he dares. And then, it compromises his exit. Alawi sets him up. He gets underneath him, coming through the carousel, but he can't quite get the car past it. The battle will continue down into the chute. He's on the wrong side once again. Alawi still sends it in deep, hoping that he can make something stick. No dice there.
Amazing battling there, and Joe, I talked about it at the top of the broadcast, the back and forth that this boot section provides, absolutely incredible. That is Christoph Herbino trying to get back these guys as quickly as possible. Looks like he's going to be able to make that pass before they get to the heel, so no problem there for our GT leaders. But Alawi all over the back of Ash's car, really, really pushing him hard.
And I say that showed some intelligence on the part of Uthman. I mean, he perfectly set him up, focused on the exit of that bus stop chicane, and nearly got it done. Just the difficulty of this circuit and those long sweeping corners may have denied him. They come through with about 2 laps to go here as Ruiz has just crossed the start-finish line ahead of them.
And there you see Alawi lost a little bit of time there in turn 10. That's going to give Ash a little bit of an advantage. Here they go again. Now, Alawi's going to be very careful not to take up too much grass. He didn't. That gap is now at about under half a second, so that is closable. I don't think it's enough to fully breeze on by here for Uthman, but he's going to do everything he can. Let's see if he tries to do a little bit of a head fake, a little bit of an over-under like we saw him do last time out of the bus stop.
Oh, he's actually going to try and get beside him into the bus stop. That doesn't work out instead. He's throwing everything at him now. The kitchen sink is out the window. And Stephen Ash so far has managed to dodge all of the utensils. So with 2 minutes left to go and possibly the white flag this time by, does Uthman have any tricks left in his book?
I don't know if he does. He's shown it very well, but he hasn't made an aggressive guts out kind of maneuver yet. That's the only thing I can think of. it just looks like that Ash has too much speed coming out of the 90. He's able to get the power down a fraction of a second faster than Uthman, and that allows him to just be far enough ahead when they get to the braking zone for that inner loop that it's able to do it. But don't look now, that is coming up behind them, the third place car of Christian Eisler, I believe, so that could throw a wrench in the works.
I can confirm white flag has been waved for Felipe Ruiz. So it's only one more time around that Uthman has got to try and see if he can finally get himself a victory here in this rookie season. He was denied in the first round. Ash going to try to do the same in the second round. Looks like Eisler lets them go. Will this slipstream be enough that Stephen Ash could get the extra speed he needs to hold Alawi back? This has been the critical part every single time for the last 4 or 5 laps. Alawi starts to gain, just like we've seen him do. The 4.44 closes in as Ash defends, comes back to the racing line. He's much farther back than times before. Is that the end of it? Is that going to be the last chance that Alawi saw go by?
I don't think it is, as he gets a really good run there out of the bus stop. Has to check up his momentum ever so slightly, though. Not able to do it, but we're going to check back up with the leader, who's getting ready to cross the start-finish line to take the checker. Oh, Uthman goes off!
Oh, no. Uthman in the final lap trying a little too hard, unfortunately, and that'll lose him multiple places. This man did not suffer such an issue. Felipe Ruiz is going to manage to put himself up at the top after finishing third last round. It's a win here at Watkins Glen.
Just flag to flag victory there for him, and a great recovery drive for Christoph Herbino to cross the line in second place, as here comes Christian Eisler now working his way out of turn 10 through 11 to take a well-deserved podium as well. So that will be your top 3 in the LMP2 class: Ruiz, Herbino, and Eisler.
Podiums for Eisler, still can't be too ashamed of that. Same thing for Stephen Ash, though, not being ashamed, because a top 5 and a win here in New York is going to make him very happy. Russo gets promoted to second on the final lap, and Michael Ross completes our podium as Alawi falls to fourth with his own mistake that we're going to watch now into the chutes. I think he just pushed too hard.
I think that's exactly what happened. We jump back here to the GSRC replay. You see it here. This is that defense that we saw Ash taking down the backstretch. Good driving. You're allowed one move and then back to the racing line. But here's where it goes. Great run out of the bus stop for Uthman. He has to check up a little bit, run that car a little wide, and then as he comes in here, you see it, he just dives it in a little too deep, sees that door closing, and Joe, I think he just locked up the rear brakes a little bit, and that caused the car to spin.
He's actually very lucky he didn't hit the wall there. So easy to just slam in to somehow salvage the car, but unfortunately went down many positions. We'll come back after a short break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll both have the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so don't go away. welcome back to Watkins Glen. Man, this one turned into a classic come the final stint here for the Precision Racing League's LeMans series. And in the end, it was Felipe Ruiz. Not so much a classic there at the top of the prototypes. He won by about 7 seconds over Herbino, who was trying to chase him down. Herbino, unfortunately, throwing away what could have been another victory, as he was clearly the fastest car on the track for much of the race. Christian Eisler taking a third. Both he and Herbino and Ruiz were the same podium, just in a different order last round. Byron Daly was fourth, climbing up from 10th. He did hold on to his consistency this time around. Now he just needs to get the qualifying in order. Nick John was fifth, with TNC Layton in sixth. Jared Turnbull finished seventh, climbing up from 13th. Not a bad job from him. Daniel Zegers was eighth, and then Josh Wolf. Bit of an up and down day for him, coming home ninth. David Menino was the last of the prototypes on the lead lap in 10th. Raymond Day was 11th, and Horatio Calquin was the last of the prototypes that managed to finish. He was 12th.
Stephen Ash was the first of your GT finishers able to hold off that fierce assault from Uthman Alawi. Coming home behind them, Rafael Russo and Michael Ross. Alawi coming home in fourth after that last lap spin. Anthony Pisano able to hold off Tyler DeZube for what seemed like the entire race, and DeZube able to hold off Ted Lowendick for what seemed like about the second half of that race all the way back. Mac Miller then in eighth in the GTs. Keep it going. Justin Rim, Nicholas Delp, Sean Romig, Francisco Montini, all were able to finish on the lead lap of the GTs, as were Aaron Webb, David Flanagan, Jerome, Kenny Rodriguez, Harrison Proshaka, and Brett Barrett. Proshaka and Barrett a lap down. And rounding out the field, Valiokis in the LMP2, obviously suffering a little bit of damage early on. Federico Montini also calling it a day, as well as Boris Angelovando and Aaron Webb rounding out your field.
At the top of the GTEs, it was Stephen Ash taking the victory in an impressive display. Stephen, be careful not to set off the metal detectors on the flight back home, because you, sir, have nerves of steel.
Yeah, how's it going, guys?
It's going great up here. How's it going for you? Congratulations on the victory. I mean, tell us about what it felt like in the cockpit trying to hold off Uthman for that many laps.
Yeah, so that's obviously my first win in PRL, so that's really, really exciting for me. But yeah, Uthman had a lot of pace today, and I was just trying my hardest for the first 20-odd laps, 25-odd laps, just trying to keep up with him. And it was really, really difficult, especially towards the end of the race. My tires really, really went off, so trying to keep him behind was near impossible, but it's very difficult to overtake at Watkins Glen, so I knew if I had about a half second coming off the first turn, I could hold him off, and that's what ended up happening.
It did indeed. Now, were you saving any fuel in your time behind him? You said you were pushing, so we assumed, since you had the shorter stop, that you just kind of cruised behind for at least part of that time.
Yeah, so I was actually pushing the entire time I was behind him. I don't know if you guys saw, but Uthman actually overshot his pit box, so that's why his stop was so slow. But yeah, he definitely had pace on me today, because after that, he caught right back up to me, and then we started battling, which was a lot of fun, and shout out to him for being so clean. But yeah, it was a great race, and super happy to get the win.
That was my fault, as we did have a note about that earlier, and I managed to forget it. Regardless, a win is a win. Anybody you want to thank for today's victory?
Yeah, I just first off want to thank all the boys at 8th Street, T-Bone, and Mike, and then of course my team, Full Send Racing, Steen Ledger, my teammate Mac Miller, all the guys for the help. But yeah, you guys as well for the broadcast. Thank you.
Well, as Stephen Ash goes off to celebrate, up next, I believe DJ has caught up with the man who took a surprise second today, Rafael Russo.
Well, Rafael, it was a good race for you across the board, and an added little bonus in the end there with Alawi going off to pick up that P2. How was it out there?
Yeah, man. First of all, congrats to Ash for the incredible race, and for all of the guys of PRL and you guys of GSRC. Yeah, man. I didn't expect that second place. I was pretty satisfied with my third place, but it happens. Utma made a mistake, and for me it was good. I had to to get a good position, and it's actually good for the standings, right? So yeah, I was quite happy with that.
Well, I think it should be. It was a heck of a race to watch, I have to say. It looked like we thought there was going to be some decent amount of fuel saving going into the race, but it seemed like nobody was really doing all that much of it. How were you on the right foot and watching that fuel gauge?
Yeah, my strategy was to stay close to Ross to save some fuel before pits. But actually, I put some more fuel than I need to. So after 2 or 3 laps after the pit, I realized that I don't need to save fuel. So for me, the end of the race was okay. Talking about fuel, I believe Ross had to save a little bit because he stays a little bit far after the pits. But for me, that was my strategy. I tried to stay behind Ross before the pit stops, but I put too much fuel, so I had to try to overtake him during the race. But looks like my car has a better final speed than Ross. Probably I had a less wing than Ross, so I could overtake. And Ross is a clean racer, so it was really nice to fight with him.
Well, wonderful, my friend. Congrats again on second. And before we let you go tonight, anybody you need to thank?
Yeah, for all my teammates, my friends that support me, the TLTB, our sponsors, MV Pack, and all of the guys in Brazil that were watching the race, and it's quite late now here, so thanks to all.
Well, thank you, my friend, and congratulations once again on that second place. And now, Joe, I believe you have caught up with Uthman, who I can perfectly describe as the heartbreak of the race.
Very much so. Utman, it seemed just like you had things mostly under control for the first half of the race, and then the pit stop happened. Tell us what went on from there.
Well, with Stefan sitting in my draft, I knew this most likely he was going to jump me in the pits, being able to save fuel like that. So I wasn't too surprised when he got out in front of me. The gap wasn't too hard to close down, but it was just the fact that this track is so hard to pass. I almost got him a couple times through the bus stop, but I knew the last lap that was my moment. If I didn't close through him entering the bus stop, I wasn't going to get close enough to pass him in the final sector. So I just threw it in, and I guess the card did not stick. But all in all, it was a really fun race, and I would have been more upset with myself if I didn't try to do everything I could to win that race. Obviously, not try to hit him off or anything, but hey, what happened happened.
Absolutely. And I mean, judging by your attitude about it, would you consider this a no regret situation that you'd rather have seen yourself in fourth than settled for that second place?
Well, I think it's pretty easy to say that I would have taken the second place over sending it and finishing fourth. But when you're in the heat of the moment, you see that win, the car's so close, you got to send it in. But all in all, the RSR powered by G Performance Porsche was a really nice car. Obviously, pulling on the straights on him, almost getting the pass done a couple of times. But yeah, like you said, at the end of the day, we're all racing drivers. We all want to win. Second place, sure, it's better than fourth, but it's not fun just sitting there knowing you're so close yet so far. So, I mean, fourth is still a great points day, so I'm not too upset about it. I'll be okay.
That sounds like a very practical way of looking at things. Well, again, commiserations that it was just off the podium, but hopefully we'll get to talk to you again at Road Atlanta.
Can't wait.
That was Utman Alawi, who unfortunately tried to send it and it did not make it to its destination. So Let's close up with a big thank you to our sponsors. Of course, starting off with the Simulation Motorsports Affinity. They can be found at SIMMSA.net if you want to see how you can get involved with a worldwide network of sim racers. And also NinjaTrader. If you want to see what services they offer, you can go to NinjaTrader.com. Then there is The Butt Kicker. They are at thebuttkicker.com, and they've got all kinds of great stuff for your sim rig to improve your experience. Thanks goes out to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenv.com, where we have a link in the description below. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. The next race will be at Road Atlanta, Tuesday, January 12th at 9 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.